area. Today is November 5th, 2020, and the time now is 7:33 p.m. Today with me, I have planning staff, our director, Pete Wald, Deputy Director Mayhew, Amy Mante, Division Chief, and my colleague, Joe Breaker. I welcome you all to the Economy Focus meeting. I would like to first give you an overview of the focus group meetings we have for this project, and then talk briefly about the project kickoff feedback that we received when we conducted the kickoff meeting last month, and then briefly discuss the survey results, and then open the floor for question and answer session to get more input from the community. So we just had our first focus group meeting on transportation an hour ago. Now we are doing the economy focus group meeting, which is 1 hour until 8:30 p.m. And the upcoming meetings are on November 12th. We have quality of life at 6 p.m. an environment focus group at 7:30 p.m. And the following Wednesday on November 18th, we have the housing focus group meeting at 6 p.m. and the local government support focus group meeting at 7:30 p.m. So we discussed briefly at the project kickoff and when we initially introduced the project and what the economy focused group is. So mainly the economy focus group talks about improving and maintaining the health of the business districts, downtowns, and main streets, improving and creating economic impact of cultural and historic assets. And the projects are centered on economic growth and management. To talk about the business and workforce attraction and retention of those businesses, improving and maintaining the health of business, and how to reduce the commercial vacancy, employment job training, marketing, branding, tourism, providing technical and financial assistance to businesses, commercial building acquisition, rehab, and adaptive reuse, and creating a sense of place through and creating a vibrancy through streetscape and beautification. So there were a lot of input from the project kickoff, and these are some of the pointers which are catered towards the economy. So we got input on to upgrade the storefront similar to the ones existing in the Frederick Road in Catonsville. And there were comments on solarization grants. And there were comments on how to attract retail, and there is trouble in attracting new businesses. And there were also comments on flooding issues and also trouble getting buy-in from landlords. So these are the graphs from the survey results, focusing on the strengths and weaknesses. Overall, the positive impact talked about the Arbutus Arts Festival and the weekly food trucks at the fire department. And to talk about the strength, the proximity, mainly about the location where the Arbutus is located adjacent to UMBC, Catonsville, Patapsco, Elk Ridge, and very close to the highway. So that's one of the major strengths that was talked about, and also the charm town quality of the neighborhood. And because of the proximity, there were a lot of comments of how things are walkable. And there were other comments on people living in the community for quite some time. And then they talked about the green spaces, which were general comments, which talks about the strength. And when you come to the weaknesses, people have mainly mentioned about the business types, mainly to talk about how they need more businesses similar to Frederick Road in Catonsville and the Main Street in Old Ellicott City. And also they have mainly talked about the food and businesses that should cater UMBC students. And there were comments about the East Drive shopping center, how it should be rebuilt. and also specific businesses that were mentioned were to have more businesses like Okamoka and Sorrento's. And there were comments that not to have more of any pizza stores or any cell phone stores, and to cater towards mom and pop type stores, and to have higher end grocery stores, and improving the building appearances along the Linden Avenue intersection and Oak Creek Restaurant, and mainly to have more diverse and minority owned businesses. And there were comments equally addressed on the existing vacant stores, and crime and lack of green spaces were also mentioned, and flooding issues in Linden Avenue was mentioned as one of the weaknesses. So here we have the chart from the survey results. There were close to 36 to 37 responses, out of which 32 was focused on economy. And as discussed earlier, it was mainly about the business types, how to attract new businesses and how to retain the existing businesses, and how to give facelift and rehab the existing businesses, and also vacancies in the commercial corridors. And rebranding Arbutus was something which was repeated in the comments, and partnership with UMBC, which was discussed in the previous transportation focus group meetings too, and financial assistance, and to bring in more jobs, and flooding issues in the Linden Avenue was mentioned, and how to improve the downtown Main Street. And there were comments on revitalizing the area with the college town appearance, and also to retain the small town neighborhood charm. So putting together and picking the main criteria that was focused from the project kickoff and the survey results is that, as discussed earlier, the business attraction, retention, and improvement. There were some businesses which were mentioned as it's what the community is looking to see. And there were also comments to attract more from the adjacent areas from Catonsville and Ellicott City. And again, vacancies and financial assistance for improving the businesses, and College Town versus the existing small town charm. So from the results which we received from the survey and the kickoff meeting, we would like to hear more on the questions catered from what we heard before. So there were comments on rebranding Arbutus. So we would like to know if there are specific comments you would like to let us know how to rebrand Arbutus, and how to reduce the commercial vacancies, and what are the existing vacant businesses, and what are the businesses that require rehab, and what type of businesses to attract. Though there were a couple of mentions that you're looking for higher end stores like Aldi and Traders Joe, we would like to know specifically if there is any businesses you're looking up to, and what are the ways to interact with UMBC students. We heard some from the transportation group. We would also like to hear more from the economy group. You might have a different insight from what we heard before. And the financial assistance to build the community. We have a representative from the economic development department. We have Jessica Normington here to talk, to address any questions you have regarding economy and any financial assistance to the programs or any businesses you're looking for, and to elaborate more on the flooding issues you have mentioned on the survey results. So this, the Q&A slide, which is earlier, is something which we put together for you to give us more information. But if you have something which you have not addressed in the survey results or through the feedback, now's the time to let us know if it is related to economy. You can let us know along the lines of strengths or weakness or a comment you would like to make or any challenges or opportunities. Please type in your name in the chat box, and my colleagues here will help me to navigate through the chat box, and we have county representatives to answer your questions. And if it is a comment, we are going to make a note of it. So by saying that, I would like to wrap up my presentation and open up for the question and answers. Thank you.
Okay, we have a question from Rashad Devon, and the question is, well, it's a statement that there are so many building vacancies. One in leads to one in Leeds Avenue, so many on East, and one on Linden. These are the ones that I noticed.
Yes, this is something which I've been reading repeatedly from the results, like from the Linden and Leeds Avenue, there are vacancies. If there is any particular stores you're talking about, or you have something in mind, you want to see something there, you could unmute. Joe will help us unmute you, and you can give us more input on that.
Sure. So hi everyone, my name is Rashad Devon. Just a brief introduction. I'm a third-year student at UMBC, and I'm currently serving as the president of the undergraduate student body. And the vacancy on Leeds Avenue I'm talking about is the one in front of the Shell gas station. I believe it's a commercial lot, and I believe it's a new development as well. And there's a parking lot on that lot as well. And that's something that's not been aesthetically pleasing as I drive by. You know, the Leeds Avenue, it's empty. It's you know, it's just empty, and it's not really helping the aesthetic of Arbutus. Besides the ones that are, you know, there's also a lot of buildings that are vacant on East, and you know, I'm assuming those are commercial buildings as well. One of the ones that are really hindering the aestheticness of Arbutus, it used to be an abandoned residential lot. I think it's on Linden Avenue. It's right in front of the fire station, right next to the bridge. And now it was taken down. Now it's just an empty lot. And frankly, that whole bridge area and the sidewalk on that bridge that leads up to the fire station, it's not physically pleasing to say the least. It's quite scary to walk on during at night, and I'm assuming, you know, it's hindering the business of the businesses that exist on the other side in front of the fire station, like Ice Cream Cottage being a prime example. And you know, there's a way that we could beautify that region, especially the empty space that exists on the avenue. It used to be a residential lot. I think that would really help you know, with the aesthetics of Arbutus.
Thank you. So I'm just trying to share the map here so that we could get to see the area you're talking about. I assume you're talking somewhere here in between the Arbutus fire station and the gas station.
Yes, there's it used to be a residential lot. It was abandoned and it was boarded, and you know, the walls were torn down and there was a lot of graffiti on it, I think. And now the building was taken down and it's just an empty, dirty, unattended lot. And you know, when I'm driving down, you know, Linden, and I see that every day, it's quite an eyesore, to be honest, to be completely frank. And you know, it's hindering the aesthetics. And the other one I'm talking about is right in front of Shell. If you can see that little parking lot, it's also an abandoned, I wouldn't say abandoned, but it's not currently active as a business lot.
Bettina, do you have anything to add? Do you know who owns it? I made a note of it. This came up in the survey too. And Jessica, if you want to add more to it, please do.
Unmute me.
You're unmuted, but
Oh,
Bettina.
okay. I'm talking and typing. Okay, a couple things. The abandoned building that's across from the firehouse, that is actually right. It used to be Rydell's Florist, and it was burnt out a couple years ago. They finally settled the insurance. It's been purchased by a company that does modular homes. So when they begin to start construction, I don't know. But the property has been sold. It's actually on Linden between the Union Hall or Ice Cream Cottage and the gas station. So you're on East Drive now. But it's on Linden, back a little bit.
Okay,
Behind see where that big white house is?
right.
It's
This one?
the other side of that. So make a right on the Linden. And then the Leeds Cleaner, somebody told me that that's in some kind of negotiation. Yeah, see it, it's on the right. You can see the brown building, but all that's done. All that's gone. The only thing that's left there is the actual footprint of the building with the basement, and everything else has been taken down. So that wooden structure, that's been torn down, and there's about a 3-foot wall that goes around now with an empty basement. And yes, it is quite unsightly, but it has been sold, and the builder has done a couple of houses in Arbutus, picked up a couple lots and done. So I think he's going to be an asset to the area if they can get the the building permits and whatnot they need. They're going to be moving their offices into there. So I understand.
Okay, so as you also know that if it is in CRD, there are programs that could assist in any new commercial development that's coming in the area too.
Right. I'll have to refer him to Jessica. I'll make a note in touch with him.
Okay,
Josephine, I've received a number of private messages that I will go through in a second. If you all can, if you could send the messages to all panelists or all attendees, that would make it so that we could all read the questions or comments. But I will go through my private comments right now. We have one from Megan. I'll start with her, and she would like to speak, so I will unmute Megan Lynch and go ahead.
Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for organizing all of this. My name is Megan. I am a grad student at UMBC and an alum of UMBC, so I know that this has been in discussion for quite some time, so I really appreciate all the driving force behind it. I just wanted to say a few very brief things to kind of add on to everything that you probably already heard, but the idea that Arbutus has so much potential to be a place for people to go to connect. And so I think a good investment in downtown Arbutus would be things like restaurants. That is something that for the past 5 years, I've heard from UBC students, other quick, healthy options, right? So we're really happy to have Okamoka, but kind of more of an expansion, like similar ideas to Panera, like quick sub sandwich places, kind of cafes where people can get together and meet. You could also do more study groups, so kind of a variety of those restaurants. And I also just want to say too that UMBC in the past, in connection with GABA, have done restaurant weeks to kind of be mindful of students' budgets. And I think those were always really helpful in getting students there. And so when kind of thinking about bringing businesses into Arbutus, being mindful of having nice retail things are great, but if students can't afford it, they're not going to go. So making sure that we're kind of being accessible to all income levels. And then finally, this is probably something you've covered in transportation, but the idea of walkability to Arbutus can be difficult for UBC students, especially if you try to drive down. Parking can be an issue, and it's really hard to walk there without walking in the middle of the street and being honked at. So getting there is an issue to begin with, especially if students are going and having a drink at Paulo's after class. Like, this is kind of things that I have been in situations frequently when students just want to head down for a quick drink and bite to eat after class, but parking is a mess, and it's really difficult to walk from UBC campus to DePaulo's. There's really no central sidewalk. So that's all I wanted to say, but I really am so appreciative to be here tonight kind of talking through all of this. So thank you.
Thanks, Paulo, for your comment. Yes, we have been hearing this repeatedly, that to have something to cater to UMBC students, to have more of something in something like Okamoka or some other cafe or anything of that sort for UMBC students. So your point is noted. Thank you.
We have another comment from Eka Daryani, and I will unmute her. I think it's about community gardening projects.
Hello, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
we can hear
Awesome. So I was in the transportation meeting about an hour ago. I'm also a member of the Student Government Association at UMBC, and I just have a few ideas for ways in which to improve the economy of Arbutus, as well as cater to UMBC students and the UMBC community. Because as Arbutus, like previous people before me have said, there's so much potential for Arbutus to be so much more than what it is right now in terms of creating community, fostering that, being a college town. And on top of that, when it comes to the businesses in Arbutus and gaining revenue and capitalizing off of the small town charm vibe or the college town vibe, the best bet, the biggest population to cater to for that is students. Students are the ones who are going to be there consistently at UMBC, who are right next to Arbutus, and they're the ones who are I think one of the biggest consumer bases for businesses and shops in Arbutus. So that being said, if you're looking to aim towards UMBC students, I think there's things that can be done, such as like community gardening projects and community painting projects when we're talking about beautification. And making Arbutus be like a more welcoming place for people to come to, because when Arbutus is a more welcoming place for people to come to visually and aesthetically, people want to spend more time there and shop there, etc. And if we're aiming towards UMBC students specifically, they would want to. It would appeal. Things always appeal to people more when they find like a part of themselves in it. So if we can host things like community gardening projects and community painting projects, UMBC students could see themselves in that. They can come and help, and they can, and all community members in general who are interested in it can come and work on those to help with that. There's also like small events, things like in Baltimore every year there's a thing called Light City, and they just get a lot of like they use like a lot of art, so people will have like 3D pieces of artwork that have to do with LED lights, and then they'll put them in the inner harbor, and people can just walk through it, take pictures. It's a very cool event that attracts a lot of people, so that's something similar. Things like that that would attract people to Arbutus in terms of art are definitely another way to attract tourism and things like that. And lastly, as a person before me said, I think in terms of the vacant storefronts and lots, a huge way to have people come to Arbutus is restaurants. Restaurants are so important, and restaurants of all sorts of different cuisines, different price points, things like that. Having diversity in our restaurants will bring a lot of people to them to eat. And then lastly, a couple other ideas out there, things like a community art center might be a good idea. We have a lot of students who are very interested in things like community conversations and artwork and in all of its different mediums, and having like a community center where not only students but community members of Arbutus can go to as well to find like programming, to find events, like just a space to build connection with each other might be another very fruitful way to bring community members to Arbutus and to gain traction in the city.
Thanks, Edgar. Thanks for all the valuable comments. Thanks for attending both our focus group meetings. It is nice to see a lot of feedback from the UMBC students because you're the ones using the area more. So it is good to hear from you. Thank you.
Of course, thank you.
Okay, we had a couple comments from Chris Zach. It looks like they were about a mobile home park. So Chris Zach, I can unmute you.
Nope. Aha. Take myself off mute. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, wonderful. I'm on the air. Hi, this is Christopher Zach from the Relay Improvement Association. I'm the president of the association. We're right down the street. It's funny to hear all the UMBC people on. I actually was kicked out of UMBC 30 years ago and then went back later and got my degree. So it is possible, you just have to wait a little while. But that said, I've lived in the community for about 20 years. I'm very interested in what's going on in Arbutus. I'd like to remind the county that additional housing apparently is going in at the top of Maple Avenue. There's a fairly large tract of property there that's going to be redeveloped potentially into a pretty good sized townhouse complex and so forth. This means a lot more people in the neighborhood. They're going to be dumping out into Arbutus, period. And as far as services, I think that I agree very heavily with the UMBC brethren there that we do need to look into somehow attracting more small restaurants, small shops. I mean, we've got a couple there that are very, very nice. But for the most part, a lot of people just have to slug all the way to Columbia or out of the area just to get a nice dinner. So what can this group do to facilitate bringing in more of those small businesses, more of those individuals and so forth? That I think would be extremely helpful for the community and also be helpful for relays because we can go over there instead of having to slug all the way to Columbia. Second question was you made a comment about the florist shop which burned down, which was really sad, and they finally flattened the property, which is very good. And now they're going to turn it into something else. At first I thought, are they building a mobile home park there? That'd be like the tiniest mobile home park on the planet. But I assume that that's going to be a small office building. And that's my question.
Which place are you talking about, Zach?
We talked about 7 minutes ago about the concept that a florist shop had burned down. I think it was on Leeds Avenue.
Right.
People was talking about that, and you said that there was going to be a mobile home something coming in there.
Yeah, that's what Bettina mentioned.
Excuse me, Josephine. It's a modular home.
Modular home.
It's new construction. It's not mobile homes. It's
Okay.
construction, and then they bring the house in sections and put it together. So it's a modular home, not a mobile home.
Oh, so they're going to build a house there?
They're gonna they'll probably do a modular structure on it, and from what I understand, it is going to be their office.
Oh, okay, very interesting. All right, I'll keep an eye on that as it goes through planning. Thank you.
If you're familiar with Arbutus Middle School from Sulphur Spring, right behind the church there. It's one of their houses, and I believe another one's on the other side.
Yeah, they built that in like little chunks. That was kind of cute to watch.
That's that company. That's that company.
Interesting. Well, glad to hear that they're coming in. Should be nice new neighbors.
Yes.
But that said, I would like to see the somehow what can we do to help promote more of those small businesses, lunch type places, dinner type places. Okamoka is outstanding. The little grill that's across the street from it's quite good. Sorrento's is, of course, a community standby. But other places like that, I think, would be very nice, especially with all that new development going in.
Okay, thanks, Zach.
Sure, Chris is fine. Zach is family surname.
Thanks, Chris.
Not a problem.
Okay, I believe Cheryl Rydell had a comment, so I will unmute her.
Yes, I own the building that you're talking, or I own the building that you're talking about on Linden Avenue. And it did catch on fire. Some kids caught it on fire a couple years ago. And it did take a couple years to settle the insurance. Because we've been such a part of the community for so long, we were trying to find a good fit to go into that spot. The gentleman that purchased the building from me, his name is listed on the lot. He has a sign there where it's listed. And he is going to put his offices there. He does construct modular buildings. But in addition to having his office there, he is attracting other small businesses to go into that building. And I'm in constant contact with him. And right now, it's just taking him a long time to go through all of the zoning process for the county because it's going to be commercial. He has to apply for all these different permits and have all the people in the county look at, landscaping, electrical, just everything that's going on. I feel very good about that spot. My husband and I felt we were at the point in our life that we were elderly and we wanted somebody that could bring some life into the community. And we had looked at a lot of different options and tried to talk with the county about what to put there. The problem with some of this restaurant situation is that we would not have enough there. There was parking on that lot, but this may also influence other areas to do restaurants. You have to have a certain amount of parking that is available, if you're going to put a restaurant in. You can do carry out or just have one or two tables, or you have to have a public lot that's close enough. So even one, there is a restaurant that was put in Leon's old place. They were having problems because they didn't have parking right beside them. They needed to use a lot that was down the street, a public lot. So in doing this, and the reason that I'm on here with this business situation is that over the years, I just see a tremendous need for parking in the area. And I had a lot of people coming to me, talking to me about building the building back because they were looking for some type of retail space. And I had people like dance studio, childcare, an art place, a photographer, and they were all looking for spaces that would be 1,000 to 1,500 square feet. And I have noticed that there is a building that's across from the MARC station that has started renting to some smaller businesses, and it was quickly filled up. But they're looking for that rent that's between $1,000, $1,500, and they need that type of square footage. The problem is they need to have parking where there's an easy access. And East Drive has become much more difficult down on the end where the bank is because they've put 2 lanes on one side of the street. So it makes the traffic very heavy there, and a lot of families are very hesitant to get out and park and be able to cross that street with small children, to try to access those buildings. Okay. So I just wish there was some way we could take a look at trying to maybe take some of those buildings out and create some parking, because I think that would go a long way to attract some small businesses. I mean, they do have to have a certain amount of sales on a daily basis to justify paying that rent. And you have to be able to get, the car traffic and the foot traffic to them. The building that I had, we had some, parking there. So it was very convenient for people to come in and out. And Mr. Nally, with what he's going to put in that building, I think one of the spots he's got a barber shop that wants to go in, and he's going to take part of it. It is going to be a modular system because that's what he does. He builds modular buildings. But because it was a church that had been in the community for 100 years, he is looking at getting the front of the building to resemble the way that that building was, which like was a peaked front, to look like a church. When he does it. So I was also very happy with that. He purchased the building in May, and it's just drug on because that building has been there so long with the insurance settlement. And it did have to come down because of safety reasons. So, definite plans are in place for doing that. And I just wish we could get some more parking down on that end of the street. Thank you.
Thanks, Ms. Sherrill. I remember talking to you earlier today, and I already made a note of all that said. The department didn't receive any plans yet for this particular area. Maybe it is with the PAI. I don't have more insight on the modular home project, so I will look into it. Thank you.
We have another comment on asking, what is the main reason retail and restaurant spaces are not occupied? Are the leases to rent too expensive, or is it something else? So I don't know if we have someone that might want to respond to that here.
Would you like me to respond to that, Josephine?
Sure, go ahead, Bettina.
Okay. The overall look of Arbutus, it's funny to say what's vacant and what's not. The old pool hall is definitely vacant, has been vacant, and that property has seen its share of troubles. Finally got somebody that wanted to come in and had grand plans and sunk a lot of money into it and didn't do a good job of really seeing what in the community. So again, that sits empty. The other stores across the street, they change so fast because the landlords are just interested in collecting the rent. They'll have something that'll go in for a month or two, and then they're gone. There's flooding problems over on the north side of East Drive, the whole strip from Lucky's down to almost the Poodle Place down to Stevens. So, it's an overturn, and the property owners are really more interested in collecting rent than they are in, building a community. They just want to collect the rent. And then if I can, while I have the floor, I just wanted to address the critical mass numbers that in Arbutus we have a problem with. And that's what the big retailers, Target, Trader Joe's, Aldi's, that's what they look for, the count numbers of how many cars go by. And right now with the Arbutus Shopping Center being at the end, the only cars that would be counted going by there are the ones that come down East Drive and make a left up North Avenue. So those numbers, so I wish there was a way that we could get county support to help promote that area. I had talked to the state last summer, not this past summer, the summer before, about trying to figure out if there was any way to get egress from Southwestern Boulevard into that shopping center, because we could attract any number of businesses into that shopping center, but we just don't have the critical mass numbers for any type of big corporation to look. And if we were to try to get a better grocery store, like an Aldi's or a Trader Joe's, they would either have to be, courted to say, hey, this is what we're doing. Look at the, take into consideration the market of UMBC that we have right next door. It would be a special circumstances, but right now we do not qualify for those numbers. And I just wish there was some way that we could open communication or even, seek out an Aldi's or some type of better grocery store.
Thanks, Bettina. The access through the Southwest Boulevard to the East Drive is something which was brought up in the meetings and the survey. We can certainly touch base with the transportation and get back to you on that. Thanks for your comment. And I see Jay Dilo also mentioning that he can add to the same conversation which you were having right now. So Joe, if you could please unmute Jay.
He already did.
Okay, thank you.
So just a quick add-on. I think most of you know, Bettina and I spend a lot of time over the years trying to track commercial business. And I think Bettina, that last comment really hit on one of the big ones we deal with all the time. When you look at those critical mass numbers, that the big retailers, the Paneras, everything that our UMBC students were mentioning, I'm going down that list. I'm like, yeah, we don't meet their critical mass numbers. But something like an egress off of Southwestern into this, what's known as the Sperry Shopping Center. Things like that are the little things I think we can do, hopefully with some infrastructure dollars and infrastructure support from the state, whomever, county, to make that happen. I think the other thing that we need to be looking at too is, and I don't know how we do this, and maybe from the county you can help us talk to some of the folks from Towson, but the other thing that happens is when you talk to a lot of these retailers, the national retailers, the students at UMBC are not considered residents. So they're not considered a regular population that would attend, because those retailers look at the students being temporary to the community. We know, and the students know, that that's not necessarily true. So oftentimes they don't count that population as a, let's say, permanent population to the area. And I know that kind of the folks up in the Towson area and down Salisbury University, they've dealt with this challenge before of trying to attract some of those retailers. And the last thing I'll throw into that mix on the commercial side, which kind of was Bettina's first part, is kind of this, what I'll call, the lack of the active landlord. So the perfect example, that Sperry Shopping Center. So that's where the Save Lot and the Dollar General located. That has looked like that since the day it was built. It has never been updated, upgraded, anything done to it. It's owned by a company that's a limited partnership. They have a registered agent. They stay, they're registered agents out of Potomac, Maryland, and they do a very good job of just shielding themselves and hiding themselves. So being able to have the county support us and kind of reach out to them and have these open conversations with them about how do you go about supporting them in a major renovation, revitalization, restoration of those buildings, that shopping center. Because to Cheryl's point, that's where a lot of parking is. But if you go in there on any given day, on some of the busiest day, that parking lot is never full, never full. And with a little bit of reconfiguration, redesign, you end up with a much better layout, a much better place. And I think those are the kind of things that hopefully through the Sustainable Community Grant, we can find a way to work with some of these landlords and or purchase the property and deal with it ourselves.
Yes, that's correct. Thanks, Jay. Thank you. And yes, one is the sustainable community designation and the incentives and programs, which you also mentioned. The other thing is being in the CRD also gives them the benefit to access the programs the county offers. So you have to work with the landlords and businesses for them to do any improvements, and the coordinators for different programs can handhold them and help them to move forward and walk them through the process.
Josephine, Edka Dariani asked me privately what it would take to count UMBC students as part of the population. I don't know if we have someone that can answer that question.
This is Jay. I can jump in there again. It's really hard because it's done by the corporations. So like Panera has very specific guidelines and they use data. It could be MSA data. They use all different types of data to make those corporate decisions. And even though it might be a franchise, like so Panera is a franchise, those franchisors have to prove the data to Panera in order to put one in their location. And they typically draw upon data sets that are produced by the Census Bureau, the federal government, and sources like that. So that's typically how they do it.
Thank you. And I see another comment that Cheryl would like to talk about the UMBC students. if you could please unmute your Cheryl Riddle.
Okay.
Go ahead, Cheryl.
I have a couple of houses that I rent to UMBC students, and I've been very surprised to learn. I thought it was going to be a situation where they would only want to rent 9 or 10 months out of the year. I find that you have a lot of students that are coming from other countries that want to be there full time. And I also find that even the local, so-called local students that may be coming from local families still want a place to live for the entire year. And I'll also bring up that when I go out to Panera around Arundel Mills, I constantly see probably half the tables are filled with people with UMBC sweatshirts and things on, sitting, before this COVID happened, sitting at the tables with their laptops, you know, eating. And, you know, so that tells me that there's not something in Arbutus, because why would they drive all the way out to Arundel Mills? And I know we talk about these national chains, but I can't help but wondering if, you know, is there some way to get into the pipeline of small restaurant people or restaurant people that might want to open another location in the area? Someone from Towson that might want to have another place, or go to the culinary schools and see if there's somebody that would want to open and target things like maybe a sandwich shop, you know, like, because I know the students that rent from me, they're always looking for a place that they can go to and get carry out and bring back to the apartment and eat, you know, while they're working on their laptops. Thank you.
Thanks, Cheryl. That's interesting to know. Students travel to Arundel Mills from Arbutus. Isn't Columbia closer?
I'm sorry?
It's interesting to know they travel to Arundel Mills for Panera bread.
Yeah.
It's actually a short drive. It's 195 to 295, and you're there
Right.
in 10 minutes.
I also think we don't do enough, like, I mean, later on, if we were able to get some other businesses in the area or attract some things, I mean, I don't want to just say Catonsville is the ultimate, but they've got that really cute thing now about shopping in the Ville, and, you know, they play on their name. And I keep thinking Arbutus is named after a little plant that no one has ever seen probably for 55 years. Okay. And I'm probably the only one that's got a drawing of it. But I keep trying to think of something, you know, that you could come up with, like, you know, look for the arts in Arbutus, or, you know, just some kind of a catchy thing to try to attract attention and, you know, give it that little hometown type feel. I know when I look on the Facebook page for the Catonsville Chamber of Commerce, you know, they post things about each business. They put the owners on there, pictures of them. It makes me want to go over there and, you know, look in the little stores and look around. So I'm hoping, and I know some of that's been done in Arbutus, but I really think we have a lot to offer, that we could do a lot more of that if we had some type of a marketing, a more extensive, you know, marketing campaign. Thank you.
Thank you. I might have missed this. Mr. Collins, do you want to say something? I see you said I can't unmute myself.
Mandy, you're unmuted.
Thank you. So this is Mandy Remmel. I am the new outreach coordinator for District 1 from the County Executive's Office for Baltimore County. So I just wanted to, thank you guys for all being on here and sharing these concerns. And from the last lady that was speaking, getting more involvement in the community. And I know obviously right now with COVID, it is hard to do events and things like that. But, you know, kind of like how you're saying Catonsville plays on, you know, shopping in the Ville and things like that. Maybe there's something that we could do, you know, Arts with Arbutus, you know, the first Friday of every month, you know, to have something some sort of event, whether it's like a music festival or a music, just a music night like Catonsville does Frederick Road Fridays, but maybe having some things and, allowing some vendors to kind of set up, some of these local vendors down East Drive or down, Carville that could set up and put a little money back into the community may be something that helps too. There are a lot of ways, obviously, to do things social distance, but again, maybe we can kind of start to look at some other events that we can do to help boost the morale, I think, in Arbutus throughout the community. So that's just an idea I had.
Thanks, Mandy, and welcome. She's the new District 1 coordinator. Thanks for attending the meeting and thanks for your comment. Joe, if you could please unmute Mr. Collins, Otis Collins. I'm not sure if he's still here in the meeting.
I don't see Mr. Collins here, so I don't think he's here right now.
Okay. Okay, somehow I missed his comment. It was he requested to unmute. Okay, that's fine.
I haven't received any other comments, so I'm not sure if there are others to panelists.
So we have 6 more minutes. If there is anything else you want to add.
If I may, this is Mershad again, and I don't want to echo everything else that was said. I just want to highlight the importance of how important it is to reshape Arbutus in a way that it feels like a college town. As of right now, there's nothing in Arbutus besides Okamoka and the UMBC victory mural that's the left side of the Greater Arbutus Business Association shop that points to Arbutus being a college town for UMBC. And I think, if you expect UMBC students if we expect UMBC students to engage with Arbutus and business in Arbutus, then we need to make sure that it feels like a college town for them. And they have things that they could take pictures of and post online to encourage the rest of their friends to come on down as well. I think, with the large masses that traffic through UMBC and not during the pandemic, you have 11,000 undergraduate students and so many more graduate students and so many staff, faculty, and admins. And it's just wrong not to capitalize on, this market that's sitting right next to Arbutus. And I think the first thing to do that is to make Arbutus feel like a college town. And a lot of my other peers, have discussed ways that we could do this, a big one is murals, art campaigns, painting the trash can UMBC colors, and we can have UMBC students, participate in that project. But having more UMBC paraphernalia would increase, engagement with Arbutus.
Thank you. Thanks for your comment. Just a couple more minutes. If there are no comments, I don't see anything in the chat box. I will wrap up the meeting.
Bettina, did you want to speak?
Yes, please. I think one of the things that we haven't touched on, and I don't know if it's ever been mentioned in the comments, but if we had some kind of bookstore, I know books are going out and it's more computer, but it also creates that hangout reading spot kind of thing. I would love to see some type of bookstore in Arbutus. That's maybe that's one of the things we can reach out to, an existing bookstore to see if they were interested in opening up another one.
Okay, thanks, Bettina.
Okay, Eric from UMBC has a couple comments.
Yeah.
Hello, can everyone hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, yeah, good evening. My name is Eric Ford. I am part of the Schreiber Center at UMBC, which is a community engagement kind of service learning department on campus. So yeah, and I was a little involved, kind of tangentially related to Okamoka when that launched. But just a couple suggestions as it relates to attracting businesses. So I know one of the concepts that's happening around the country, but also in Baltimore, is that locations are setting up these incubator spots. So it could be like a vacant spot where different businesses, primarily restaurants, could set up spaces temporarily to see how business goes. And if it catches on, then they could possibly remain. So it could either be one spot with multiple businesses, or one location where businesses kind of rotate through. I don't know if people have heard of it or understanding the concept, but basically it's just a temporary spot where food places, primarily food places, but it could be other vendors as well, temporarily just set up a spot for a few months, see how business goes, get the name out there, and then it could possibly catch on. So that's one suggestion for some vacant properties. And then for parking, obviously I think, long term, there's just going to have to be some space provided for parking, but I think a temporary solution could be, primarily on the evenings and weekends, having just a shuttle rotated from UMBC. People could park at UMBC. It's only about a mile and a half away, if that, and then a shuttle just maybe runs every 15 minutes to Arbutus. So I don't know if that's been suggested or that's happened in the past. But I think it's a consideration until like a more long-term parking solution could happen.
Thanks, Eric. And I also see Jay has added that they have a similar thing in Chicago. So it's 8:30 now. Thanks for your comments. It's noted. Thank you everyone for attending the Economy Focus Group meeting. So look out for emails and check our hub for all the updates. And the next meeting is on November the 12th. So I will send out follow-up emails for the registration. So looking forward to see new folks on the meeting. And if you are still interested in other focus group elements, you're welcome to attend, but please register for you to attend so that we can hear your input. Thank you again. Thanks all for being here. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.